Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martens. I have the huge pleasure today of hosting Chris Rice from Rice TVX, of whose channel I've been a big fan of, especially in this past year, looking into the law and spirituality. So great to have you here, Chris. I'm really, really pleased.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show. I know we had to reschedule yesterday. You were going to come on my channel, but we got that scheduled for next week. And so we're going to see each other two times next week, and we get to have this awesome conversation today. And I'm looking forward to it as well. So thank you.
So good. So we're on our way to being best friends.
Sure.
There you go. It's so fun. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you. I'm going to set up Rockfin so that the people there that want to go off of mainstream media can do that. So I'm hitting the live button there. I just made it free, by the way. Sometimes they already got people on Rockfin. That's so great. Yeah, so Rob, I just hit the button now.
Is that kind of similar? Is that kind of similar to Patreon in a way?
It is, yeah. Rockfin is a truther-only platform. You have to pay like Netflix, so it's a $10 monthly fee, but it gives you access to absolutely everything like Netflix does.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you should totally get on. I'm happy to recommend you. You're perfect for the platform. And then people can tip, and if they sign up to Netflix through you, then they reward you constantly with some kind of money. I have no idea where I'm going to spend. Not I don't go anywhere anymore anyways, so I don't know in this strange pandemic world that we're in.
Well,
And
I
yeah, go
work
ahead.
so much, it's like I hardly go out myself. And
Right.
if you guys hear any noise, there's some construction workers outside my apartment building. So if it happens to come through, I apologize.
Perfectly quiet, and I've got a police station across the street, so you always hear sirens on my podcast.
I live
You-
right near a hospital too, so it's a combination thereof. But
There you go. There you go. So, hello to people in the chat that are coming. David McDonald is here. Rob B has been here for a while already, holding down the fort. And Toronto. Oh, what is this doing? Toronto is in the house. Hello, Diana B. Nice to see you. And Chris, you were here early, filling up the chat. Davin Borsteller is here. Awesome. So great to see you guys. Always a pleasure. Honestly, it doesn't matter how I feel before I get on a stream. I always feel good doing the streams. And that's how you know that you're doing something you're meant to do. So we're going to be talking a lot about what it's like to be an alternative journalist. Actually, I was pretty excited to geek out with you on that. That's not as common that people know, the behind the scenes and everything that you go through to put your content out. If you're not familiar with Chris, definitely jump over to his website, Chris Rice, pardon me, I always do that in my head.
it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, ricetvx.com. And thanks for that. Hit that like button. Exactly. You're one of the best promoters I've seen. I love watching you because it's not my not I wouldn't say it's not my forte. I just can go 3-4 streams without promoting anything, and then I come full on promote everything. Today's going to be one of those days. I've got lots to share with you guys. Chris is going to be a guest on the Choose Freedom Law Summit. We've done it for the past, I think, 6 weeks ongoing. We did 19 interviews, total marathon of all these guys. Dolores Cahill, Chris Gonski. We had Catherine Austin Fitz, Alphonse Fagiolo. I met David Jason Giarmita through you. Actually, I got to know him and like
Okay.
his work, so we had him on. Matt Belair and we've had a fabulous time doing this summit. It's also been incredibly intensive, but we're on the other side now and just put it up for donation. They are rushing in, so God bless you and thank you for all of the donations that have been sent. And I will definitely be sharing a link to that. Chris is going to be recording with us a bonus for the Choose Freedom Summit on Monday, so you'll be seeing that relatively soon as well. And yes, Rob, you're on Rockfin. How did Robert Michael make out? Excellent. Yeah, we actually had him on twice. Once to talk about his more general work, and the second time to talk about taking business into the private, which is a big interest of mine and many people right now while they're under the throes of restrictions and all kinds of governments breathing down our neck in every way sideways. So let's get into it. I would love to talk to you about, first of all, what's it like to be a podcaster? Obviously, doing alternative journalism puts you in the line of fire. There are going to be people who love what you do and people who hate what you do. How long have you been doing this? Are you way past that stage of having haters in your zone, or do you still have to deal with nonsense like that?
Well, okay, so I started my channel back in early 2018. It was January 2018. And started out my content as my channel was Rice Crypto. I have since rebranded to Rice TVX, and I was mainly covering like cryptocurrency and economic related type stuff. Then when I started branching out in 2020, it was March of 2020 is when I started adding extra elements to the channel, and then ultimately rebranded. And to be a content creator, I used to sing in bands for years, so I was kind of used to people hating on what you do, and then some people really liking what you do. So I don't really let that kind of stuff bother me. I really feel the reason I started my channel was just to educate and empower people, and that still kind of stands today, even though I've added some elements and rebranded. It's still at the core to empower other people to be able to pass along this knowledge that I'm learning, and as I'm learning it, pass it along to other people and just keep this cycle going. And then it just seems like people like us end up attracting to one another. It just ends up becoming inevitable that we'll end up meeting. And I was familiar with Matthew Bellaire's work with interviewing some people in the law movement, and then heard about your guys' collaboration. So I mean, I figured us having a conversation was going to be inevitable. I really feel like the universe is starting to bring together the people that are meant to be together. And as far as like what I do, this is my full-time job, and I pretty much live it. What you see is what you get. I try to be very transparent. I try to keep it very real, and that's why I would hope that people like my channel and want to support what I do, is because I'm not hiding behind some persona, some mask. Not trying to be something I'm not. When I make mistakes, I admit it. I encourage other people to do things that I do myself. Like the whole idea of being the change that I want to see in the world. I call this philosophy, my philosophy, practice change. But I wouldn't promote anything to anybody that I don't do myself already. So it's just really that cycle of teaching and learning. And the research and stuff like that can be a little overwhelming at times, depending on what kind of rabbit holes you're going down and how much stuff you're looking at. And because I cover a wide variety of stuff, that can take its toll on me mentally, and just gotta take breaks. I've gotten a little bit better recently over the past month as far as not waking up and starting to work. So I'm usually kind of giving myself an hour and a half, 2 hours after getting up, and then starting my work day. And that way I can set the tone for my day in various ways. And then at night, trying to make sure I'm giving myself, even if it's late, a cutoff time. And that way I'm not really working from the time that I get up to the time that I go to bed, and just kind of working at my pace. But it's something that I feel is necessary for me to do. I feel a need to be a content creator, to wear a journalist hat at times, to be a researcher, and to be a freedom activist. And when I say wear a journalist hat at times, not everything I do requires journalistic skills. So it's just deciding to wear what hat I need to wear, whatever tools I need to use in my arsenal for whatever situation I'm dealing with. And when I'm trying to play that role and wearing the journalist hat, I try to remain as unbiased as possible. I start out definitely unbiased. And I'm not sure how you feel about this, but as you start out unbiased and go down a path, and you start doing research and you start accumulating information that is the truth that you perceive to be true, then you start to lose that unbiasedness and become more biased towards what you're finding in your research and your findings. And that's usually kind of how my approach is. So it's not like I'm just going out covering local dog shows or community events or anything like that. I'm really trying to cover important events. And if I'm doing a journalist kind of role, it's usually trying to uncover truth, whatever incapacity that is. Like with Russell J. Gould, with my series of interactions with him and trying to expose him for who he is. And like the interview series that I'm doing with Kim Gogan, I haven't been able to prove or disprove any information. And a lot of times, you gotta, in this sense, the burden of proof would be on someone like them, like Kim Gogan or Russell J. Gould. But when they can't provide any proof, and I'm trying to be professional about it. So there comes a different fine line. And usually that's the people who, if I have any type of negative interactions with anybody who watches my channel, it's usually people who are from the polar opposites of the people who I'm calling out, or that I don't necessarily 100% agree with. So I'll get a lot of the Life Force community kind of attacking me because they feel like I'm attacking her, when she feels like I'm just challenging her, and she enjoys doing the interviews. And then the quantum grammar community wants to come to Russell J. Gould's aid and attack me. But those things I kind of expect, because unfortunately there are a lot of people that are looking for saviors, and they would rather fight tooth and nail for someone else to save them than to actually get up and do a little bit of dirty work themselves and save themselves.
Exactly. So before the podcast today, Chris, you went on and did my journey archetype quiz, the King Hero's journey particularly. There's two, by the way. People get confused about this. The Merpreneur's journey is more a little bit my past life working with women entrepreneurs who don't fit inside the box and really want and need to be valued and be full-time as you are in your work, because that was the same for me. I was doing this split personality thing, which I'll say more about next week when I'm on your show. And it nearly killed me to do that, to be authentic by night and in disguise all day. So I had to go full time into this. It is my calling. God tells me what to do every day, and you could certainly work morning to night every single day. I completely agree with that you have to put these artificial restraints. I got big into gardening this year, as I know many people have done, which is such a good thing to do right now. And it forces me to have to go out there. We're in a total drought here in Manitoba, by the way. No water whatsoever, big cracks in the earth, definitely engineered chemtrail-wise. And it forces me to get out there and just be, part of the land and put my hands in the soil and enjoy a first tomato off my plant, and just, the simplicity of the life otherwise, because I could be behind the screen 100% of the time quite easily. And so on my quiz, you got the rebel archetype, which is so fun. This is the one that nearly killed me, by the way. And it's, as you know now, but there's the two sides. One that will both be life energizing and full of purpose, and then the other side that will suck the life out of you by being in that shadow.
Yeah, like organized chaos in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's the illusion of chaos that we're fighting against in this world. It's really truly an ordered universe. That's getting into the spirituality side of things. That's what I discovered when I started looking into archetypes to save my life. And so yeah, the rebel is one of my favorites. I totally see that on you, but in a high energy. I don't see you railing against the machine. One of the reasons I can enjoy and listen to your podcast is because you're so even, like that nothing really triggers you. You're just taking information in. You're being, maybe it does, and you're just very good.
I got a really good poker face sometimes.
Aha, excellent. Yeah, I can do that too. And I heard you say the other day, I'm going to just jump on a tangent here, that you took somebody's interview down, and I don't remember who it was, and we don't need to call them out exactly if you don't want to, but, because you don't agree with them anymore. And I was thinking back, I've got some interviews up that I actually don't endorse their work. They were excellent interviews. They still were, really good, and I enjoyed them. And do you feel like there is some kind of moral obligation to be on side with your speakers, or do you feel like, no, my job is more of a journalist to sit back and just provide information, let people decide for themselves? And what is that fine line between them?
The fine line is when people are causing harm to other people. That's, otherwise I don't mind letting somebody else come to their own conclusion. Otherwise, I will kind of push my viewers in a certain direction. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. I don't make my work about trying to call people out. Unfortunately, some of those things are necessary. But I try to make sure I'm doing it with logic and fact, and not just basing it on feeling and things to that effect. That's where I call myself an open-minded skeptic. I really like to have factual information and not just go based off of my feelings and thoughts in those situations. Now, I do take them in consideration with what I'm thinking overall, but how I'm putting out information and portraying the information, not in that sense. And so the video that I took down was Russell J. Gould. I mentioned him a moment ago, and the reason I did was because I was searching for truth, trying to, again, prove or disprove to establish truth. From those two interviews, you would think that I'm supporting his work. And I came to the conclusion that I couldn't support him. So I challenged him to whatever that meant, what a duel, a thumb wrestling match, however he wanted to accept it. But I just really wanted him to quit his antics, quit being dishonest, quit lying and stealing from people. And ultimately what ended up happening was they attacked my channel. Russell J. Gould is claiming to be the Postmaster General of the United States and the world. He claims to be the commander-in-chief. He claims he captured the U.S. flag in 1999, that the American government is bankrupt. And it's a really crazy story to go into. Like, if you're not familiar, are you familiar?
Yes, but I haven't
Okay.
gone down that rabbit hole. Just keep
Okay.
hearing his name,
So
and I heard you talk about him, and yeah.
So then what ended up happening was I got 2 copyright strike claims put up against me. And this guy is supposed to be somebody who cares about freedom and sovereignty, but is attacking my right of free speech. Now, I had to consider what I was given a 7-day warning, and I had to consider what was best for me to do with my channel. And I ultimately ended up removing the videos in question. It wasn't the interviews, the videos in question. And because those videos were the ones that kind of like drew the line in the sand saying, I don't support Russell, and here's why, I decided to ultimately remove the interviews from my YouTube channel because I just didn't want to have anything promoting him in that aspect. So I do think that, we have a responsibility, unless you're coming at this from a really midpoint, because there are some people out there, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some content creators, journalists out there who do try to stay unbiased throughout the whole entire process and leave it up to the viewer. I respect that. There's different types of people who do different types of work, and that's just not how I operate. But I do respect that. Unfortunately, if you know that somebody is being harmful, hurting people, stealing, whatever the case might be, but causing harm to other people, and you're being midline and you're letting people make their own decision, you're almost promoting someone else getting hurt, someone else being harmed. So those are the things that I want people to take in consideration. If we truly live our lives individually, treating people how we want them to be treated, none of this would even be an issue.
Yeah,
If
the
we
golden
live by
rule.
that golden rule,
Yeah.
just truly like think about every interaction that you have, and you're like, if I do this, is that how I want things to be done to me? And if you start trying to be more mindful of those kind of things, that's kind of what practice change is about, practicing every day and learning from all the good and bad experiences that you have. And not everything that I do is 100% correct. And when I do something that I feel is wrong or negative or whatever the situation might be, I make a video. I'm very transparent and talk about it and say why. Because there's been a couple of times that I've let my emotions get the best of me. Whereas some people respect those videos, I don't necessarily wish I would have came at it from that angle. But at the same time, I'm not going to delete the videos because it makes me look like I'm trying to hide something from people. So I just try to air out my dirty laundry. And it's like, if I've got everything, if I live in a glass house, what are you going to say?
Yeah, exactly. Really well said. I'm a huge fan of that. There's a lot of safety in transparency. I know that word is sent around a lot and doesn't really mean anything. But I actually had someone try to blackmail me at some point, and the first thing I did was go public with it because they were saying like, oh, I'm going to tell people this and that, and I'm like, oh well, I'm just out there telling people right now, and then you got literally have nothing on me. And there's so much liberation in that because you can easily do this job just simply protecting your reputation, managing how people see you and what they think about you, and especially when it's tied in with your livelihood, then it becomes quite a trigger point in the unconscious. And to me, the most valuable thing that people would ever get from me or you is that authenticity and that willingness to say, hey, like for example, about people who change their minds. They'll say one thing. I've been working with somebody who They just had one story. We've got the census breathing down our neck in Canada. They show up at my door every single day, and they actually threaten to charge you with jail time or a $500 fine or both. And so everybody's asking, like, and sometimes they are nasty, the people, if you talk to them. Now, I don't answer the door. I just simply won't talk to them. That's how I'm approaching it. There's no mail addressed to me, so this is technically not for me. There's no household here. I only have a house. And so then just the question of how to deal with this, and so somebody who is saying, oh, just it's toilet paper, just don't do anything, you don't have to do anything, and then next thing you know, he's saying, oh, you all you have to do is this, give them your address and how much agriculture you're doing or something like that. But he never said, yeah, I changed my mind on that. Things have like kind of shifted and turned, and I learned something new, and I'm gonna say it this way now. He just shape shifted and said something different, right? Like, how are you supposed to trust that?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's hard to, and I mean, I've got to say, like, when it comes to the freedom movement, I'm really proud of the Canadian people, because as much crazy stuff is happening in Canada, there are people standing up. And I would have saw this more in the United States, but I know that we haven't quite gotten as strict as Canada has been. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk in Canada about all these different names, like Canada Stand or something like that.
Yeah,
There's a,
China, and I call it Manitoba Stan where I am here in Manitoba. And yeah, I did see Canada Stan the other day too.
I mean, it's getting crazy, and I mean, I'm seeing what's happening in Australia and things to that effect. It's a really bizarre world that we live in, and people really need to take the time to really educate themselves about what's going on, and not just follow these mainstream narratives, and then try to do what they can to be as compassionate as possible for their fellow man and woman. We even got to care about the people that are kind of against us in that capacity. I mean, being the change that you want to see in this world really means being the change and walking that walk, and it's not always an easy path.
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily call it the narrow path, but it's a similar walk, and it's not a walk that everybody walks. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
the world is very double-minded, and a lot of people have agendas. There's a lot of double speak going on. You look at the legal fiction system, the legal fiction matrix. You look at just all the different power constructs that have been created by governments and central banks with our fiat debt-based system. Um, our fractional reserve banking, everything that's happening economically in the world, all this stuff that's happening with, you know, pandemics or whatever they want to call them and things to that effect. I mean, it's a very, very interesting time period to be alive. It's just
Yeah, it's not boring, eh?
those discernment goggles are definitely what people really need to see through. It's almost like that movie They Live. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, someone else just recommended it to me though. I'm not a movie watcher. They traumatized me. I have a very
It's
I
a
can't take the gore, but
it's not a gory movie, but it's a movie that kind of talks about a way that we could be living today, where you're seeing all these subliminal messaging. You have a pair
oh
of
yes, of
glasses
course.
that allows you to be able to see things for what they are,
Right.
versus what people are seeing in what they consider their reality. And it's like living in a matrix, and when you can be aware of what those kind of possibilities, you start waking up and you start seeing that kind of stuff in real life. You start watching commercials, and you can start seeing the propaganda, and you start listening to mainstream news, and you can start hearing that propaganda. You can hear that repeated message that's coming out. I'm sure you've seen some of those videos from newscasters where they're all saying the same message
Oh, exactly.
all at the
Exactly. Yeah.
same
Oh,
time.
the script, it's unbelievable. Yeah, those are
Yeah,
really
it's
well done.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just fed down the pipe at us. And if you pay attention, you can see that. So, welcome if you're just joining us. This is Chris Rice from Rice TVX. I'm a huge fan of his podcast. If you haven't yet jumped onto his YouTube channel, and where else are you, Chris, as well? I know you're on a few different platforms.
Well, first, you're so kind. Thank you for all the compliments.
Oh, my pleasure.
YouTube,
I don't give them
obviously.
empty. I don't give empty compliments,
Well,
by
I
the way.
greatly appreciate it. I really try to take the me out of this as much as possible. So I used to love it when I sang in bands. I used to have that lead singer disease. very egotistical. So sometimes it's I'm not the best with compliments, but thank you. YouTube, obviously, I have Rice TVX, and I do have a backup channel on YouTube. Very low number of subscribers, but it's Rice TVX two, the sequel, the backup channel. And then my main platform that I use off of YouTube that I promote on is Odyssey, which is powered by Library, LBRY, and Odyssey is spelled ODYSEE. You can actually sign up with them, Beth, and have your videos transferred from your YouTube channel automatically.
Yes, I do that, and I always forget to shout out for Odyssey, but that's amazing that they just poured it over like that. So as long as I'm on YouTube, I'm good.
And see, compared to like BitChute, which a lot of truthers are going over to BitChute, I don't really like. It's a centralized site that can be basically the same stuff that's happening on YouTube can happen on BitChute. It's not a very user-friendly site. It's not friendly for uploading videos. It's a crazy process. The library technology is built using blockchain. So ultimately, no matter what was to happen to Odyssey or library.tv, their websites, they have an application that you can download on smartphone and also on your computer. And you're actually running a node on a network. And what happens is the videos get distributed throughout the network of nodes so that the videos are permanently there. So if someone was to take down Odyssey or library.tv, my channel is still going to exist on the library blockchain. It still be accessible. Maybe not via the internet, the web, like a web browser, but you can actually access it through things like the application mobily or on your desktop.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's really good. So good. I just wanted to make sure that people know how to access Chris's channels, and so definitely go to his website.
Yeah, the
I almost
website's
said
got links at the very
bethmartens.com. Here, let
top.
me show you your website. I'm going to share it.
Cool. Yeah, at the very top, there's links for everything. All my social medias, my Patreon, if you want to support me. I think there's a support tab there too, if you want to send like a contribution or a tip. I've got my Instagram. I also use a social media site called float.app, FLOTE, and encourage you and your audience to check it out. They promote freedom of speech. Yeah, Kat Peterson, my media coordinator, had me write up a bio, and I hate doing things like this, but
Oh, I'm so glad you did. There's so many people in this world that don't spend any time with it, and yeah, so it is a great bio, and he tells a little bit of the background, using his voice to spread awareness regarding freedom-related topics, subjects, and solutions, law and legal fiction, cryptocurrency, of course, blockchain technologies, economics, politics, history, voluntarism, and more. The mediums he used to express himself are videos, audios, podcasts, public speaking. The goal is to educate, empower, encourage others to be the change as well, which is very rebel of you. Rebels are willing to get out of their comfort zone and take the flack and go against that mainstream narrative, even if people disapprove of them. Now, the shadow of that can be actually looking for disapproval. I don't see that on you, where they enjoy getting people riled up, and when a child can't get good positive attention, then they do bad shit to get that negative attention because it's better than nothing. But
I
he
think
says, yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a little shadow rebel in me when it comes to alphabet agencies and being monitored and things to that effect. Because I really feel like there's a lot of that going on. Actually, I did a video yesterday with Pimpy from Pimpy's Investment Chat, my friend Jason, the Public Awakening. We were in Washington, D.C. on January the 6th, and he had the FBI come and visit him
Oh boy.
2 days ago. And one of the pictures that they had was a picture of me, him, and Pimpy together. And so they wanted to know who we were. And what's really funny about that is I'm sure they had to have some information, but everything that I do, and this is what we were talking about in that video, everything I do is very, very transparent, very public. I drink periodically, and I'll do that sometimes on streams, like maybe once a week or so, maybe once every 2 weeks. I'm an avid cannabis user, and I'm very vocal about that and have no reason to hide that. So just lay it all out on the line.
Damn, I'd like to get together and smoke a joint with you.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, our border
Good
is a
good
problem right
medicines,
now.
good medicines. Yeah, and if Canada wasn't so crazy, I would definitely. I've got to get my passport situation straightened out, and I'm trying to look into the idea of a diplomat passport and how to obtain that. And that's so I haven't made any status change correction or anything to that effect because I'm not sure which route I want to go quite yet because I'm not really sure what has been successful.
Well, that's the thing. Honestly, the deeper that I get into it, and we'll talk a lot more about this in your interview for the Choose Freedom Law Summit, but, it hasn't, I don't want to scare anybody, but it hasn't made things more clear for me. It's just made more questions. And you
Yeah.
too. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, it's messed up because it's like you think it makes me. It's like, am I supposed to question these things? Because the more I question it, the more confused I get. And it doesn't seem like it should be that way. But at the same time, if this is a constructed thing for nefarious reasons, it's just going to be a web upon web. You remove one veil, there's another veil. It's just a deep mess that we have to sort ourselves through. And I think the more I'm getting, as I'm getting more confused in some areas, I'm getting more clarity in others. If that makes any sense. I
Yeah,
did
me
come
too.
to that conclusion that all of this, the root of all of this, comes down to like spirituality and spiritual warfare.
There you
For
go.
our life force, our soul, our being, who we are.
Exactly, exactly. So, what is at the core of your spirituality? If you don't mind me asking that blatant question, I know usually that's a personal question, but
No
not to the
problem.
people that I know.
I was raised a traditional Christian, and I still kind of carry a lot of those values. Um, I consider myself, by labeling myself, a practicing Christian, and I really like the teachings of Buddha as well. I find a lot of similarities in the teachings of Christ and Buddha, uh, and so, and the reason I use practicing Christian is because someone who follows the teachings of Buddha doesn't call themselves a Buddhist because they would have achieved enlightenment. So they call themselves a practicing Buddhist. And in that sense, most people who call themselves Christian do not act Christ like. So it's like, why would you call yourself a Christian if you don't act Christ like? And I'm striving for those things and I fail a whole lot, but that's why I say I'm a practicing Christian. Because I am
That's great.
practicing and trying to walk a better walk. And I do falter and fail, and I get off track, and I pick myself up and get back on track. And it's ultimately a learning experience, learning from everything, taking all the good, the bad, the positive, the negative, the yin, the yang, and just learning from them to improve upon all your interactions, all your decision making. You start being mindful of those things. You start thinking in the way of like, I'm talking to myself. How do I want to treat myself?
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, there's so much that went sideways. See, when the pandemic hit, I had been only into truth for a couple of years already. It was relatively new. Luckily, I by the time it hit, I wasn't in shock, and we had all seen this coming in one form or another. And the whole thing led me away from everything that I I knew to be spirituality, and that's a lot. Like I'll tell you the whole story on Wednesday, but it really wiped the slate clean. Like there was no more, oh, I can identify with this path and that path and turn to it like an authority and to tell me what to do. Although I wasn't super like that anyway, being a strong rebel myself. But I saw at that point that it really cut all of the cords, all of the ties, and sent me straight to God. There was no middleman. There was nobody who could tell me anything. All of my knowledge was blown, but I know God, and so it galvanized that, and then that becomes the measure when I go out into the world and take in anything from anyone. That's my reference point. And yeah, go ahead.
Now, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't. I was really did not like that Christian label because of what most people would consider to be Christians today and how they act. But as I started going down these different rabbit holes and seeing God for what God truly was, I could relate it back to that. And I don't try to say that in a way that limits other spiritual beliefs. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And but when it comes to talking about the legal fiction stuff, I know you've had Daniel from Christian Remedy on your channel,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been trying to work on communicating with him to get him on the channel. But there's something to that aspect of things that really ring true to me, and I've not challenged, but asked people from other spiritual beliefs or even religious systems if any of this correlates, if any of the Christian remedy type stuff, being saved in the name of Christ, Christ being your redeemer, the whole trust relationship from the Garden of Eden, if it correlates in other belief systems. I would really like to discover that ultimately, because I do find a lot of connections, and I'm not going to say that every religion and spirituality, the God that people worship is the same God, but those that do have that common factor are worshiping source, creator of all, the thing that we emanate from, the thing that we collectively make up the whole of. But unfortunately, there are people that call some entities God that aren't the creator, that are just perversions, that just basically pervert nature and anything natural. And that's a lot of what we deal with in today's world, is just complete perversions of everything that was ever created.
This is exactly it, what we're dealing with. Actually, I had a very long conversation into the night with someone last night, and I think I've concluded, whether it's by intent or by accident, just sort of innocently following. It seems like there's an 80-20 rule across the board. There's 80% truth, real stuff, and 20% that either goes sideways or intentionally takes you down. And for those who are intentionally doing it, you have to have the 80%, or nobody's going to listen to you, right? If it was just all crap, you wouldn't go there. And even right down to the Bible, there's so much of it that when I run it through my relationship with God, it doesn't match up. That's not the God I know. The vengeful, the rewarding, the punishing, the God that should be feared. I'm not afraid of God. That's the one thing I won't be afraid of.
And that's not what Christ teaches, obviously. We don't see any of
Right.
that.
Exactly.
It does seem like there's a duality in even in the Bible when it comes to that. But again, that's just more distortions and perversions that are just taking place by man.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, and to take everything that's, even I was thinking about this very fine point about God and judgment. And it's very comforting sometimes to get yourself out of the role of judge and know that God is the ultimate judge. But even that, I'm thinking about it last night and I'm going, I don't know. I think that's a shadow. I think that judgment is a shadow of discernment. Like discernment is the awakened place where you see what is. You're not in the role of condemning and telling somebody that they're wrong or immoral or shouldn't do that. But you see, and by seeing, you are a clear reflection to them of what's not right and pure. I had someone come and try to, say all the wonderful things about Freemasonry last night, and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Right? The whole truth community is full of evidence of why Freemasonry is satanic, and the bar association.
But there's got to be dualities in that too, though.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
got to be good aspects to Freemasons. I know that there's Freemason clubs that do good things in their communities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, and at the same time, I know that there are drug dealers and gangsters in the hood that give Christmas presents to the poor too. So, I mean,
Exactly. Yeah, and whether it's by intent, you'd have to talk to each person who's involved. But when it comes right down to it, right, they get you in with the good stuff, and then one way or another, you end up out of integrity and needing to proclaim your allegiance, and and then you stop serving God, and you've started serving this other master to remain the club member.
yeah, and that's very well possible. I mean, it very well is. And I would think that obviously, you're going to have, people who aren't even aware of, like, that are in Freemason, that are part of the Freemasons, that don't have any clue about what we may be potentially talking about, because it's not been introduced to them, because they didn't, I'm assuming higher level individuals, initiates, didn't find that these lower level initiates had value in that element. And it's always cool to keep your little low soldiers, to keep that profile that Freemasonry is like just a club like all the other Elks Club, Moose Club, Elk Lodge. They're just a gathering of a bunch of guys, and sometimes they do some stuff for the community. And
Exactly.
you kind of keeping people away from the actual truths of what they are by, when you start doing all these things like public relations things where people can see what you're doing publicly, it starts psychologically making people think that you're just doing good things. They don't think about it as the reverse psychology of like, you're doing all these good things. Do you feel like you have a lot to make up for? Like, did you do a lot of bad things before? Because sometimes that's how I look at it. Like, do you have this bad karmic debt that you feel like you have to make up for, that now you have to like change your being and do everything you can to try to, because you're so upset about who you were.
Yeah, well, that seems to be certainly part of our paradigm that we've been raised in. The whole Gnostic universe of archons and reward and punishment. So you do a bad deed, you must be punished and pay your dues. I do believe in forgiveness. It's a real thing. Like, God, please forgive me for this. I've had, even mothering moments in my past. It came up for me the other night, one time when my kid hit his head because the mat in front of the sink wasn't slip proof. And 12 years later, I was still blaming myself for that and having a lot of pain. It was like weird because he's got a little scar there. And I just looked up and said, God, would you please once and for all forgive me for this? I didn't do it on purpose. I wasn't trying to harm. And then this big wash of beautiful energy came over and lifted. I feel like I never have to have pain about that again, right? So,
Well, what you're saying is makes the point with what I was going to say, which is, if we want to think about the idea of like Christ consciousness, or that we are all God experience in itself, through itself, that we're all emanations of God, and collectively all living things make up the whole entirety of God. I'm not sure about how you are individually, but I am definitely my worst critic, judge, however you want to put that. A lot
exactly.
of times I say I am my own worst enemy. I am the problem and the solution. So in that aspect, if we are God experience in itself and we make up the whole of God, there is kind of a judgment, but it's a judgment that we do to ourselves. And I think when you start going down these paths of that, me and you are kind of going down, and other truth seekers are going down, you start changing the way you live to be more aligned with that idea, because you start to progress to a point where you start taking the eye out of things, and you can start looking at things from a different viewpoint.
Yeah, that's
and then
beautiful.
and then you can see that yes you make, because that's also part of practice change. It's like, when people make a mistake, a lot of times what people do is they dwell on it, and they let it be like a nail in a coffin, instead of using it as a stepping stone of, oh, I fell down, so now I just need to pick myself up. Oh, I made a mistake, now I need to learn what to do not to make that mistake. It's just trying to live in that mindset.
Exactly. And I call that an off ramp in the work that I do. So instead of just making right, seeing that wrong was happening and deciding, okay, that's not going to happen anymore, I'm going to go on the right side, people beat themselves up. They
Yeah.
flagellate, they, like you said, the harsh judgment. And then it seems like you're paying your dues by beating the crap out of yourself, but you're not. You're actually avoiding going on the right path because you become your own perpetrator in the process, right? Like you're not actually coming clean. There's this, well, at least I'm beating myself up. We all have relationships in our life where, someone did something wrong and all they do is feel guilty and beat themselves. It's no service to you. Like, can't you just be a nice, kind, loving person with me?
Right.
And then that will feel much better than me watching you beat yourself. That's of no service whatsoever. It doesn't right your wrong. So I think that's just part of the whole archonic programming that we're all under the spell of.
And then choosing who you have relationships with also is another important factor, because obviously other
Bingo.
individuals can feed into what you're doing and make things better or worse depending on what type of person you are, or what type of people you are. Because you could be attracted to somebody in your life who's going to be keeping you down, who's going to be reinforcing all those negative aspects that you feel about yourself, and being that incarnation of the judge.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's very harsh, I think I'm decided now. That's not the God I know. God sees everything, knows everything. Actually, I'm going to do a stream pretty soon called "The Devil's in the Data," and so God knows everything, and the devil wants to know everything. Right? We've got this whole satanic movement to consume every little bit of our, our temperature, our state of mind, our shopping habits, our watching habits and everything. My phone keeps reporting to me that it's 34% more usage of your phone today, right? Like they're really tracking me. And but to be in that place of knowingness and just pure reflection. So I wasn't judging this person yesterday when he talked about Freemasonry. Instead, I was just discerning. If I was judging, I would have said nothing. I would have just gone and slinked away, talked to somebody else about him. But instead, I came forward and said, "Really? Like, how can you say this? How can you align yourself with something that eats babies and goes through sacrifice and rituals and secret societies and all that kind of thing?" And just put up that reflection, and then they went silent. Like you could see there's something happened. There was a mirror moment, but it's not me going like, "You go to hell" now, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's the best way you can do things is not try to point judgment or call someone out, but say things in a way that allows for others to think for themselves. It's something that kind of gets the ball rolling in the thought process or planting a seed in the brain for something to blossom so that hopefully somebody will realize things on their own.
Exactly. Exactly. So what is it about your work in particular? And do visit ricetvx.com to visit Chris's work. So, what is it that moves you and inspires you? What makes it worth it at the end of the day to do all this hard work and be at it full time? And it's not easy. I know it's, to actually make your living this way. That's a lot of effort ongoing. So, what makes it worth it for you?
I mean, the people who show love by watching the videos and sharing the information, knowing that I'm making an impact, no matter how big or small, knowing that I'm making a little bit of a difference. Those are like the things that really keep me going. And I really, as cheesy as it sounds, I would really like to leave the world in a better place than it was given to me. Not me personally, like the world is mine, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we have a responsibility to future generations to leave the world in a better position because I feel a lot that we've been kind of given a crap end of the stick. And if we're talking about evolving and growing as a species, I think we should start changing the way that we live. That doesn't necessarily align with the Green New Deal necessarily, but just living consciously in harmony with nature. And there's ways that we can utilize technology and still do those things.
So, do you see this as a purpose and a calling for you, what you're doing right now?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel I definitely need to work a lot more on my spirituality in a lot of aspects that I'm aware of. But I feel like what I'm doing is part of a divine plan of sorts. And I feel a lot of times I'm being divinely protected,
Oh, that's a good topic
divinely
around.
guided. I mean, people being brought together, events that I would have said were coincidence, that it's just like a string of serendipitous moments that just continues. And, one or two things are coincidental is like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But when you just have this like year and a half string of serendipitous moments that all interconnect, it really shows you how much something bigger than me and you is at play with this.
Yeah,
Some people
synchronicity
say
is so fun.
it's our higher selves, and I'm not in tune with myself enough to know if it's our higher selves guiding us or if it's uh, source, whatever it may be, the Holy Spirit, however people may want to interpret it. It's just still something that I'm learning, but I know it's there.
Yeah, I'm just that we're children of God, and there is something about us that if we stay in that humble place, in that Zen beginner's mind, then it's a very beautiful place to be in. You don't get to say, well, I know everything now, I'm done. And there's no done, right? Like if you're done, you're dead. It's over.
Right.
So it's a perfect attitude in the like you're trying to learn that which has no information. It is describing the indescribable. It is only something we can talk about because we share the experience, and words never actually touch it. But nonetheless, we can, even from such distance that we're in right now. You're in is it South Carolina or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, cool. I haven't been to the Carolinas yet, but here I am in Canada, way far north, and yet we're sharing this vibe, and it's felt and it's real, and we know what we're talking about. So it's a really beautiful thing. I'd like to go back to talk about protection also, because we live in dangerous times, for God's sake, right? That
Yeah.
all of the things, all of the worst fears that people had are now coming true in lockstep, day after day after day. We're seeing, especially here in Canada, we already have the jab passports. People that have them can go to a restaurant, right? Someone just offered to take me out for lunch, and I'm like, well, I'm out because I don't have one of those things. And you can't travel across the border without it. You don't have to quarantine if you have it. Businesses are being paid $50,000 to ensure all of their employees get a jab, or two of them, the double jab. And they're turning into tyrants against the people. People are losing their job at every turn. By the way, I'm hosting a coaching certification program coming up starting in September, a 7-month program where I'm training people to be self-employed as a helper of some kind. Being a
Okay.
coach, it's like you're being in the Wild West. There's no regulations. No one can tell you, like if you're, a licensed physician or a psychotherapist or all of those things, you're totally bound by those institutions. Whereas in the coaching world, you can literally do whatever you want. And so I'm pretty happy that was born of the pandemic. I thought, what could I do right now to help people? I'd always wanted to train coaches, but I never gave myself permission. So I thought, okay, psychopaths can do this to the world. I can train coaches. I'm ready.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to have a conversation with me about that, definitely put a bug in my ear, and I'm going to drop a link into the chat where you can let me know. I know I've got a few requests that haven't been answered, so thanks for your patience. We're just getting the summit thing together. And where did I put that link? So I'll grab that. And yeah, so on protection, it's one of those things. Like, for example, if you pray for protection, then what my experience has been is that God throws you all the circumstances that you need protection from. You pray for strength, and God shows you, oh, I'll just throw these huge obstacles in your way so you can see how strong you are. I prayed for faith, and then I got my faith tested at every turn. So it's kind of a fascinating thing with protection. But I hear you, right? That if you stay in alignment in a moral and righteous way, truly righteous way, there is magic that happens for you that can't happen in other ways. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, completely. And I can see how things kind of get off kilter when I get off path. Um, Now, again, this isn't something that I chose, whereas sometimes when you pray for things, you're choosing for those things. So, yeah, I mean, I think that you're going to be given those situations. And it's funny, you mentioned two things today that I talked with, because I did a live stream earlier with Robert Michael. We were talking about the 80/20, and then we were talking about being careful what you pray for, because
Funny.
you'll get it. Like, so I'm very careful about what I pray for. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you ask for something like patience, then you're going to be given situations where you have to develop patience.
Exactly.
So it works
Exactly.
in a way like you were saying. So, but I mean, if you're just doing something that um, maybe that you're meant to do in your life, a path that you're meant to walk, then I feel like doorways will open up a lot easier for you when you're on that path. So that's kind of a little bit different. Um, versus choosing and asking for things in prayer versus just doing what you feel like you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That there's something about asking for that which you don't have, and then it starts with the premise that you don't have it. And we actually live in a world of where we can have what we want, as long as it's not to harm anybody, or it doesn't bring harm to anybody. And then by asking for something you don't have, God's going, that's right, you don't have it. I'll give you more evidence that you don't have that, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's so tricky. So yeah, I stopped asking for things, and there was one good thing a client said to me at one point: pray for that God can intervene at any moment. That I've had good luck with. Like, okay, God, if you want to intervene, I'm totally open to that. So that
That's
was
a
a
good
good
one.
prayer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very clean somewhere.
It's when we imagine what source is. I mean, because I try not to define things like that I don't know because I'm limiting what it is. But I imagine it being one, the ultimate mathematician and the ultimate comedian.
I know, it's true. There's a lot of jokester in there.
It
In the
feels like it.
Yeah, in the Indian world, there's the Leela Maya, and it's a play illusion, and there is a fun to it, right? That's the innocent nature of life. That God just wants to. I mean, it's hard to project that I could know what God wants, but like to know Himself, itself, however you try to pronoun that up, just through the multiple, huge variety of expression of life, God wanting to know itself through every turn and corner. And right, like that's why we're not satisfied just to be our own little life. I want to talk to you, and I want to talk to them and them and them, and see through everybody's eyes because I only have these eyes. Right. So yeah, I agree. Like joking and playing, and then there was a good point here from Trick, just saying, and I think I agree with you right away. The devil heard you pray and tested your faith. Right. So this is a much more empowered interpretation rather than God testing me, because I don't see God as a tester. It is Satan that tests. Right. What do you think about that, Rice?
They say
Chris.
the oldest book in the Bible. You can call me Chris. You can call me Rice. Both
Okay.
people call me both.
Okay. Cool.
They say in the oldest book in the Bible is Job, and that's kind of like the premise of the book. Um, the beginning of the book, Satan is like chilling in heaven with God, and you're like just having a conversation, probably smoking. And one of them said, "Hey, this dude really likes you and is really faithful to you. I want to mess with him and see how faithful he's going to be." And God's like, "Okay, just don't kill him. Don't kill him.
Right.
Don't kill his family." Well, no, actually, no, no, just don't kill him because I think his family ended up dying. And then he was, because of his faith in the story, he ended up getting everything he had lost and more. Not necessarily his children coming back to life like zombies or anything like that, but he had new family and new things that came into his life because of his faith. But that was the idea of the story, was that Lucifer, Satan, was coming to test Job and see how loyal he was.
Exactly. And Jesus in the desert, Satan came and Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan."
Yeah,
I sometimes have that as a mantra in my head: "Get behind me, Satan. I know you're here at my table, and I'm just going to go forward with this thing anyway." So,
I love it.
yeah, yeah, super good. What about the way that truth, law, and spirituality have intersected? Was that something that was surprising for you, or did you already know all of that? Is it, did, because there's a lot of political and secular law study out there as well, and we've definitely gravitated towards the spiritual side of it because I just can't relate over there. There might be some good stuff, and obviously you need to know knowledge and spirit. But what was that intersection like for you? How did that happen?
It just, I mean, the course of over the past year, just interviewing a little over a year, interviewing just a variety of people and just getting a multitude of perspectives and being able to look at things from a lot of different angles. I I was learning things in regards to what we would call the legal fiction. I'm 46, so when I was looking at some of these things, like in the late 90s and mid 2000s, there wasn't a lot of information available. Um, and it was getting back on this path, choosing to restructure my channel and covering Greg Howlett, of all things, that took me down an interesting path that reconnected me with the sovereignty legal fiction stuff. And then it just everything else just became more parallel. It just all started lining up. It just started all making sense. And when you really get into this and you're like, why would they distort a language? What do they need with our life force? Why do they need to keep people energies down? Why do they need to have a debt-based monetary system? And you start looking at the whole thing, and you start getting that bigger picture view, and it just gives you a different mentality about how to live and view all these things. So it's kind of what it's done for me ultimately.
That's beautiful. Yeah, because even the word law itself compared to, say, legal versus lawful, right? Legal is the satanic and the legalese and the trickery and the loopholes. And then true law is based on God's law, right? This is something I'm working on inside myself too. It's like, do we even need law? There are some of those guys that are promoting, and we haven't really hosted anyone like, say, like Ken Cousins and the Pantera movement, promoting creating your own societies in your own countries.
Robert Michael's actually creating his own society, so in that aspect, you
Also
have.
true. That's right. House of
And
Marcus, is that the?
there is some similarities in what Robert Michael is doing with his Shem Society and stuff to that, and REM Private Management that is very reminiscent to some of the Ken Cousins stuff. But there's a lot of differences as well. And this is where I'm also personally trying to start pulling some of these individuals together, not to form a new group, but just to form an alliance, a mastermind council where these individuals can help each other with their processes, look at each other's processes, help streamline them, make it easier so that people can get, so that we can educate more people and get more people's status changed and correct it as much as possible and give people as many choices as possible. And then a lot of these groups have these commonalities of things like the birth certificate fraud and things to that effect. So there's no reason why that these groups shouldn't be working together and uniting in some fashion to build strength in numbers, because I'm seeing that in Canada. Now, unfortunately, I mean, there is some tribalism still kind of going on because there's a lot of people, and I'm kind of glad we're touching on this. And I know we could do it more when we get together on Monday and Wednesday. But the tribalism and the law aspect, you got your common law people, you got your special party creditor people, you got your UCC people. So but what I've started to realize is that all these different forms of law and all these different tools, like Alphonse Fagiolo, the way he has his affidavits, Cal Washington with his notice of liabilities, we talk about common law, trust law, equity law. All of these things are just different tools. So it depends on the situation that you're in to utilize them. And if you talk to a lawyer is going to tell you that we don't go by the Black Laws Dictionary, because everything they're saying in court is going to be based off of what you're saying. So if I go into court talking about a goat eating, like my neighbor's goat, eating my vegetables, there's not going to be any confusion on the part of a court system thinking that I'm talking about a sewer system. And people are like, what do you mean? Well, if you look up the legal definition of the word goat, it means sewer. But why would a sewer be in my yard eating my garden? So a lot of times it's based, and I know not everybody wants to hear those things, but it's not always black and white. It's a lot more gray than anything. And then when you talked about God and Satan knowing and wanting to know, and law versus legal, that just goes back to nature is of source of God, and anything that is artificial in that aspect is a perversion thereof. So Lucifer, Satan, can't create, but he can manipulate what is created. And because he knows what was created, he knows how to manipulate. And you have to mix the lie with the truth, because if it was all just a bunch of lies, people would know it was a lie. Nobody would believe it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's got to suck you in and hypnotize you and make you feel like, "Oh, I'm home and somebody's going to look after me here." Right? What a big lesson this whole journey has been. Always just kind of going like a bunny going, "Oh, do you have my answers or some path to reliably follow and some step by step?" Like that would be so nice. A lot of subjects you can just go and learn. And this one, it's like, oh my God, I stayed up until 4 in the morning. I have no idea why. I'm no richer for it in terms of knowledge. And and then so at the end of the day, it really is that lesson that if you want some guru to follow, you're going to get disillusioned. You're going to get let down. You're going to be betrayed by it because first of all, it's what you said at the beginning. It's not the situation in front of you, right? If you're following somebody else, then you can't really just be paying attention to what showed up and how you're meant to act. We have a situation here in Manitoba where the 12-year-olds can now go get a jab without parental permission.
Yeah, I've
And
heard
and
that.
and there's propaganda that about how to lie to your parents about it if they don't agree with you, right? So how do you now this is right in my face and it's in my home and this affects me and now it's up to me to know how to take action. I really can't ask anybody to do this for me.
I agree, but there's ways that you can do things to form networks with people, and I was trying to see if this website was active with this URL while I'm talking to you. There's a group, Ammon Bundy had put together this network called peoplesrights.org.
Hmm.
And somebody I know in Canada was trying to get this for Canada so that people can connect up with their neighbors. It's like a neighborhood organized defense network, just a way for people in local areas to be connected that are like minded.
Very good. Yeah. Lay
So
it on us.
I have to get that for you. I was thinking it was this particular URL, but it's not pulling it up. So I have to get in touch with my friend and ask him, and I'll let you know next time we talk. But
Hmm.
that way, like people in Canada can create more of a network because I'm friends with Kyle Kemper. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
He's Justin Trudeau's brother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when Justin's dad was Pierre, right?
Yes.
And Pierre died, and his mom remarried. She married a guy. His name was like it's spelled fried, but it's Freed Kemper,
Hmm.
and had a couple kids. So I think Justin was like 12 when Kyle was born.
Hmm.
Um, he's somebody who I'm trying to bring to the table for this Mastermind Alliance group, and even he has issues. He's actually been like actually going out in public and making videos and talking out against the situation of what's going on in Canada, what his brother's doing, and
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, and so but he's even had hard times like at the borders and stuff like that. I'm thinking like you're Justin Trudeau's brother, like you should have special privileges, and
Yeah.
there's no special privileges, and that's when I started realizing too, like, and I'm not having like I'm saying I have sympathy for Justin Trudeau by any means, but I don't think Justin Trudeau is in a position to do anything.
Hmm.
If he wanted to say no, I don't think he's in a position to say no.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
he has when he was elected, because I thought like it's a similar to a president thing, and it's just from what I understand, Justin Trudeau is just the head of the party that's in control of the Canadian Parliament. It's the party that's in charge, and he's the representative of the party, but he's not like equivalent to the United States president. But that individual, every individual in Canadian history has bowed down and pled loyalty to the Queen of England. And the Queen of England is who the Prime Minister of Canada owes his or her allegiance to, not the people.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Exactly. Exactly.
ways for Canadians to be able to connect up and network up, I think is going to be really important, especially when you can think of like encrypted ways of communication, because I know things are going to get pretty crazy out in Canada.
It's true. Yeah, I've thought a lot about our leaders and to what extent they are primary psychopaths or secondary psychopaths. Comes from the work of Stephen Verstappen. And so, yeah, that's like, are they the ones that are in bed at the high level, or are they being extorted by those guys? And, you know, we had, I know my people have heard me say this before, but I'll tell you that we had our premier come on a news conference, and somebody asked him about one of the treatments for COVID that challenges the emergency use authorization. And he said, instead of answering the question, which is typical, he said, oh, yes, Manitoba has the biggest pharmaceutical industry in the whole country. So it's a total sideways answer. And then he says, and he looks directly in the camera, he said, thank you for the rain. That was $1 billion rain. And then he put on his mask and he walked out. So I thought he was dissociating. I thought he had just completely lost it by now, that he'd gone crazy. But he's really talking to his controllers who get to say how the weather is around here, right? They've put us into drought. We've had a few inches of rain in 90 days. And
Yeah.
that's major for an agricultural province, right?
Well, when you think about if you look outside the box, I mean, there's heat waves going on in the United States. There's talks of farmers being paid off to kill their crops if the crops aren't dying in and of itself. So I mean, it's like this setup for a really bad situation. And I'm not trying to condone Justin Trudeau by any means. I'm not trying to say that he's innocent and that he hasn't done anything wrong in his life. So I don't want that to be the case either, because I mean, I know there's a lot of questionable activities around him, his businesses, and some of his personal dealings. But whether or not you have the power, just because he's prime minister of Canada, doesn't mean he could be like, no, I'm going to lift all mask mandates, and we're going to outlaw any sort of vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. He doesn't have that authority or power, and couldn't do it if he wanted to.
Exactly. Their hands are tied. And how do their hands get tied is by living out of integrity, because because he wants his power more than he wants to help people, because he doesn't want Sophie to know what he's up to. I don't know, in the back end, that's just my women's intuition speaking. Then, he wants to be called out and come clean. That's a thing that people often don't realize, is that you can come clean. You can ask forgiveness of God, of people, and start a new life. Like, I have a lot of respect for people who do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you for your past if you're deciding, oh, this is the
Yeah,
line
no,
in the sand.
it would speak volumes, obviously, if that was the case. If like someone like Trudeau would just be like, look, I'm my hands are tied here. There's no point in me even continuing this position. I'm stepping down. I have no authority. I can't do nothing. I can't make the country better or worse.
And that's what we can do, is start to force the hand of honor, right? That because they're being perpetrators to us, whether they can control that or not, it's happening, it's real, and there are consequences spiritually mostly. Right, that yeah, you want to bring remedy to it, or hit them where it hurts, Alphonse style, and but I, when I'm writing a notice, and I haven't written a lot of them, but we're working on one. I'm actually writing to God, not to that person, threatening them,
Okay.
but making my claim to God, coming clean to say, like, hey, this is who I am. This is my duty to protect my child, for example, and I'm making this statement before God. And to me, that takes it out of the realm of this, because they can turn you into the perpetrator. They turn you into the hater, right? You hate lies. It's just a new thing to hate. You're still in their camp, right?
Yeah. So I had to unplug my computer. If I leave it plugged up, it starts draining my battery.
Okay, no worries. I never did ask you what your timing was like for this interview, so we're just kind of going off into the distance. Is there a time that you would like to end at?
I'm good probably for like another half hour or so,
Okay, perfect. That's great.
if that's all right.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then, to remind people, we're going to do something again with you on Monday, and then we're going to do something on my channel on Wednesday. I'm not sure if we're going to do it live or if we're going to just be recording it, but I'll keep everybody up to date about what's happening.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so Chris is going to be a guest on the Choose Freedom Law Summit. There's 19 interviews already posted there, and it is as of tonight at 2 a.m. I don't know why we did everything at 2 a.m. because I'm a late night person, that's why. And so as of tonight, it goes from being a free summit to being by donation. It's basically free. We've made one of the tiers incredibly easy for you guys, and the donations have been rolling in. So I'm sharing a link here to the Choose Freedom Law Summit
Can I
donation
ask
page.
real quick?
Go ahead.
You mentioned something to me that something kind of nefarious happened with somebody who was watching your guys' videos. Do you want to elaborate on that, or is that something that you guys are keeping?
Oh man, there has been behind the scenes stuff. Lots of
It made it sound like to
yeah.
me like somebody took your videos and just made them all public when you weren't
Oh,
trying
that
to
was
have
it.
them.
Got it. Yeah, they started selling our videos because we've made them that you can't download them. Until now, the donation page actually you can download a video, an audio, even the documents from the speakers that have been providing them. And but yeah, someone came along, took it upon themselves to rip the videos because a good techie person can get anything from the net. Put together a stick and started selling it.
Wow.
I know. In the end, we messaged out and heard back from a lot of people. So far, it's literally only one person who got the offer, so it wasn't nearly as big a
I
fraud
hope
as
I
we thought
wasn't
it
bringing
was.
up something I wasn't supposed to bring up.
No, no, that was
Okay.
public. That was public. Absolutely, no
I
problem at all.
apologize. So,
And
okay, thank you.
no, no, it's interesting. And who knows where they were coming from? They might have just innocently. Sometimes people are trying to even be the hero to other people. Like, oh, they won't let us download, so I'll do the work to make it available to the people. And we had plans. We're bringing it to the people anyway. So yeah, this is the link here. I don't know if you can pick this up. I'm missing a space. I'm going to try that again. It doesn't let
It
me
should
edit
still
that.
work though. People can
Yeah.
copy and paste it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can
I don't
copy and
even
paste
know
it
if
from the
links actually work fully. I think I don't know as
in
long
the
as it has
comments.
yeah. I'm not 100% sure if you can actually like click off a link. See here.
Yes, you can.
I was gonna
Yeah.
see if it worked. I was
Oh,
like, that's how to
damn
check.
it! It's the wrong link. Okay, hold on. That's
It
the
was the
wrong
wrong
link.
link. It was
It's the
yes.
wrong link. Okay, let's
It's a
start
link
again.
to Choose Freedom Law Summit
Darn it. Yeah. Okay, I've
with
been
the
sending out a lot.
donation price options.
Yeah, it's not far off. You can still get there. That'll just take you right to an order form rather than the actual description of what's going on.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, but let me see if I can get this from you for you. This is because
I
it's a
do appreciate
partnership.
everybody for tuning in too.
Yeah, totally. Great to have you guys here. I always love this audience so much. I always feel like $1,000,000 after. And so here is this is the like not beautiful link for the Choose Freedom. And it is an affiliate link that goes to Matt Beller since we are partners in this process. So half of everything that we are donated to goes to him. And this one gives you the
Is
details.
Trick one of your normal people? Do you see Trick in your conversations often?
No, I'm new to Trick. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Trick
Is
is
he
one
in
of the
your
he's somebody in the crypto space, and I know that the law stuff interests. So I was just curious if he was here prior to, or if because I did try to share this out as much as possible to people that watch my channel to make
Oh,
sure we can
thank
get some
you.
people here.
Totally appreciate that. That's
Oh,
lovely.
no problem.
Yeah, no, welcome to all the new members. My channel has been growing. I hear that I am very shadow banned just in terms of the amount of engagement I'm getting at my website and people doing the archetype quiz and stuff like that. But who knows? I'm still here in enemy territory. I know I've heard you talk about it too. Who was it that was taking you to task the other day about you got to get off YouTube and you're in enemy
I mean, a
territory?
lot of people are trying to say that to me, like you're supporting. I was doing a video with my friend Stan Barabbas from Bodhisattva Love, but he wasn't telling me to get away from it. It's just that that's the choice that he wanted to make. He feels like being on a platform, you're supporting it, and I'm like, dude, like the platform is going to exist with or without me. I can turn my monetization off and not make a dime, and they're still going to make money off of me. So, like, why would I? Some of those things don't make no sense. The idea of getting people to go to other platforms and use other platforms and know where they can find you. So, if something happens to your YouTube channel or something to that effect, they know where they can find you. I think that that's what's beneficial. When I start, if I have any more serious issues with YouTube, then I will get to a point where I just release all my content on Odyssey, maybe a couple other platforms, and then make a little video on YouTube saying that I got a new video up on such and such platform, and this is what it's about, this is who it's with, go check it out. But you're not going to be able to watch it on YouTube. But it'd just be using YouTube to push people over to other platforms.
Exactly.
That way we can use the system against itself. I mean, it's considered the second largest search engine, and it's not even a search engine.
Exactly. And then I was philosophizing about this late last night too, and thinking about, okay, well, how could we not be using the tools of Babylon? That's all we've got right now until there's, innovations. Although, like you're saying with Odyssey and Rockfin and BitChute and all those kind of platforms are there too. And one thing is, like, my book is published through Amazon KDP Publishing. And that's totally the enemy. There can't be a bigger enemy than Amazon right now. But it's like using Amazon's energy for the force of good that I'm putting out with my book, right? Like, that's how maybe I justify it to myself. But as long as they can make it easy for people to get my work, then that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those walks that you kind of got to do on your own, find what works best for you.
This-
But because, like you're saying, there's not any alternatives. Like, if you wanted to exit the system, where would you go?
Exactly. I mean, if you want to
And we're
eat
trying to build
berries in the
things.
bush, right?
There's things that are people trying to build, and there's ultimately there will be solutions, bridges that will allow us to get to that point to be able to create alternatives. But until then, we've got to be able to acclimate and use what we can and use it in the best possible way that we can. So yeah, like you're
Exactly.
saying, use people say that crystals have energetic energies. Use Amazon to bring you some crystals so that you can add some protection in your life and some positive energy in your home.
Exactly. Oh, there was a question a long time ago in the chat about your necklace. Is there anything significant about what you're wearing?
Well, the black is two pieces.
Let
The
me
black piece is shungite. Let me take it off real quick.
take this
It's
banner down so I
shungite
can
with
see.
sacred geometry, the flower of life.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
I had to take my headset off for a second. And then the purple thing, it's called a Tesla purple plate. I'll show the shungite. Shungite is supposed to keep away like electromagnetic frequencies and
If you
stuff
pull
like
it
that.
back a little bit, I think we got more detail. Beautiful. Nice. There
Yeah.
it is. Oh, yeah, with the light. Perfect.
Yeah, I was trying to get the glare on it.
Yeah,
So that's
beautiful.
the sacred geometry. And then the purple one is called a Tesla purple plate, and it's supposed to be Tesla, like Nikolai Tesla technology.
Aha.
EIP, I think, is the name of the company that does these, but it's supposed to emit positive energy, the positive energy of the universe.
Very good. Very good.
And you can find them. You can actually get them on Amazon, and there's other websites you can get them on too. But Tesla purple plate has nothing to do with Elon Musk or Tesla vehicles. It's all Nikolai Tesla. It's supposed to be the way that the metal's ionized. It's supposed to do something that's supposed to emit the positive energy. So whether it's psychosomatic or whether it's real, I dig it.
There you go. That's all that matters. This is another conversation about belief, right? That people have this sense that, oh, well, things will work. Say something natural medicine or energy medicine. It's going to work if you believe it, and that's actually the opposite of my experience. That things are. I want things to work in real time, not because I'm holding some idea that
Belief,
it's
yeah.
going to work and fake my way through it. I
Well,
like I
that's
Go ahead.
kind of an example of the power of manifestation in a way, though.
Yeah, say more
If
about that.
it's kind of, I mean, if you to expand upon that, I mean, it's just you're kind of talking yourself into health.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed is that if you try to put a message of health on top of disease, it doesn't stick,
That
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's where I think people end up feeling like they're trying so hard to hold a certain belief, but they can't because there's unconscious beliefs at play there. And so a lot of the work to me is not trying to impose some belief and like, just have hope and everything's going to be fine and all of that kind of stuff. And it might be, and God bless you if it works for you. I wouldn't try to take that away from you. But at the end of the day, we're going for reality here, right? Like we want something that actually works and can be demonstrated and repeated for others as well, like truth, not like, oh, this only works if you believe it shit.
Right. No, and that's why the open-minded skeptic stuff kind of comes into play, and that's why I'm trying to learn what I'm learning, is so that I can actually apply this and put it into action and walk the walk that I'm talking about versus just a dream or an idea.
Exactly. And are there ways that your life has changed as a result of going down this law path, for example, in the past year?
Not really in any aspects like that. I find that I mean, I'm very isolated. I don't have a lot of people around me I like to go out in person and hang out with. I do find that ultimately, it's been a journey that's something that I needed in my life, and um, just something that I felt was very important for me to continue on with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's been little shifts and changes that are actually for me very big shifts and changes because I didn't want anything to do with the law. I just demonized the whole thing, put it aside. I didn't want to study it. I went to it resentfully, feeling at the beginning like, well, I have to do this now, and I have to take time away from important things to give to this subject that is only relevant because they're trying to kill us. But when I notice as I do make small changes and take small actions and start to integrate knowledge in a way that I had never done before, in a more independent way, like I'm just starting, I still feel like a baby, but it's really fun because I don't feel at the mercy. I've been in situations that nobody could have told me how to navigate in. Just sometimes it's been hard to get by without a mask here, for example,
Yeah.
and going through different situations. I went into a store with a girlfriend, and what I did got me in, and she got kicked out.
Okay.
It was so strange, right? Like, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn. Just say
Right.
like there was I just came up against their internal doubt and insecurity that they had any authority to tell me to wear a face diaper. And I didn't do it mean. I just did it matter of factly. And I said, you have no right to ask me my health information under the Protection of Health Information Act. And she's like, okay, go right in. And then I started chatting to her because I'm good at public relations. I'm going to go and make a relationship with these people. They let me in. Maybe I can come back again. And then she all of a sudden blurts out like, "You're putting us at risk. We might get a $5,000 ticket." And I just said, "Oh, any idea how many of those tickets actually make it to court? Zero, because they're not valid that way." She's like,
Right.
"Oh, right this." And we talk a little more, and I'm like, "Could my friend come in?" Oh, okay. Like this. And there's nothing particularly legal about that, but it's having that personal authority to just state and, like, first of all, know who you are, and to somehow state that. It's not even in the words necessarily.
When you were talking to it did make me think of something. One of the things that when I have gone out and tried to like socialize with people, I have started becoming or feeling more alien to the people that I'm communicating with. If that makes any sense. Like, um, I want to try to talk about like I'll listen to people talking about how nice their day is and all this kind of stuff, and then somehow the conversation will turn into something that's related to economics or law or something that I will go and add my 2 cents to, and then these people look at me like this dude is crazy or what is wrong with this individual, and it makes me feel so not like these other individuals that are kind of caught up in spells or however you want to put it. That would be probably the biggest change or anything that I've seen coming over the past year and a half. It's just the way that I'm interacting with other people because of wanting to try to wake other people up and try to share information and try to find ways to connect and get my messages across. And when I say my messages, I don't mean like egotistically my messages, but these messages of truth that I try to share. Try to get those across to people by trying to communicate in a variety of ways. And then listening to myself in retrospect, it's like a heavy dose of information kind of being thrown on somebody who's not ready for those kind of interactions quite at the time. And then you kind of get that lost look from a lot of people that make me feel very alienated.
Yeah, they literally think that you are crazy. Like my whole family thought or thinks that I have a psychiatric problem, right? That poor Beth, let's look in on her every so often to make sure she didn't kill herself. But she's completely lost it, and I'm okay. I'm at peace. It's been a year now, and my worst fear happened, and nothing actually bad happened to me. I did lose friends and family, of course, but I've been flooded with all kinds of amazing people. Have a ton of new best friends that are truly in alignment that I can talk to. I don't have to ever censor myself or think that I'm educating them, which you can't really do, right? People don't want your information. They've already emotionally decided where they're at in this whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, but hanging out at the bar and drinking sometimes can take those thought patterns away, and those people start losing their inhibitions, and you can get through to some people in those aspects. And that's where I find that's usually, unfortunately, when I've been going out and socializing, that's what I would do is I think in the past 6 months, I've been to a bar 3 times, and every single time I leave just very disappointed excuse me, in my interactions with others.
Exactly. Yeah. No, the wheat and the chaff have separated. It's one of those things that we can't really you can't control it, nor do you want to, right? You want the reason that or you can tell me if this is the reason, but you put out a very strong message, right? It's hard to come away from one of your podcasts feeling like, oh, he's so wishy-washy or on the fence. You're going in a very clear direction. And it's good, especially even from a business perspective. As a business coach, I always talk about this. You want to polarize people. You want them to know clearly that you are somebody they want to listen to or not. Right? It's not going to be some on the fence. And I heard this about God too, that like there's nothing, God despises a fence sitter or something. I always pull
Lukewarm
those.
people.
Lukewarm, exactly, where you're not willing to commit or decide. And if I show my true colors, then all these people won't like me. And if I come out fully and say everything, then who's going to be around? Maybe nobody, because we all had to risk that literally there would be nobody. You'd just be in the desert alone.
But when you get to that point when you don't care about what you're risking, in that sense, where you realize that a lot of these relationships are not important in your life, it gives you you start to see the world in a totally different light. And I think the more that you kind of go down this path, a lot of that stuff happens to a lot of people like us.
Exactly. Does it feel courageous what you're doing? Do you ever get scared of anything that you're up to?
I know that what I'm doing could be looked at by certain powers that be as confrontational, rebellious, going against their agendas. I have told people in my life, that there is a potential possibility that things could happen. I've had situations where I've been, I know I'm being monitored by government agencies. I've had interactions for several years. Had to deal with Department of Homeland Security. Became friends with someone like John McAfee, interviewing the kind of people I interview. Getting a lot more ballsy to it. I don't really. I feel like if something was to happen to me, it's just going to be like it reinforcing the messages that I talk about, kind of almost making me, what's the word that they use in religions, a martyr. Um, but at the same time, I feel very knowledgeable in what I'm doing that I would don't really feel like I'm gonna have like I'm waiting for the FBI to show up to my house. And I'm waiting to tell them that I know my rights and I'm not going to be communicating with them in any form. If they want to know any information, they can just subscribe to my YouTube channel and make sure that they smash that like button because it's all
There
right
you go.
there. So, and that's the reason why I interact the way that I do and try to wear my heart on the sleeve and try to be as transparent as possible because I'm trying to cover my ass in a lot of different directions. So that if governments or anything wanted to say that your behavior is seditious or treasonous, obviously my work speaks for itself, and I don't promote violence, and I'm not promoting sedition or treason. I'm promoting truth and freedom, our God-given natural rights.
Yeah, I don't read any fear on you at all, Rice. I really don't, and it's a beautiful thing. So, how did you get there? Because this one of the purposes, to do this podcast is for King Heroes in the making that want to get out. They feel it in them. It's pushing up. They've got a purpose. They've got a message. Whatever it is, work to do, and just need the courage to be able to take a stand. So, is there any advice you could give to people about that?
I guess to recognize what the light is, you have to know what the darkness is. So, I mean, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people that I've interacted with have had dark backgrounds, dark pasts in a lot of ways that help them to build to be the character, the person that they are, the people that they become. So I would just attribute it to my experiences. I mean, I don't want to get into like detail. I didn't have the best childhood. I have been in prison. I don't have any felonies. I've been homeless, chosen to be homeless. I put myself in some situations that let me experience life for what it was. And in that accumulation, going from being an egotistical singer to taking the self and the I out of things, it's just a big growth gap. And it's just been all these different experiences. But I couldn't know how good the light was until I knew how awful the darkness was. And I think
Wow.
that's the best, like when I look at stories, whether or not they're real or truthful in the Bible about some of the people that have made impacts, they weren't like your fine, upstanding citizen kind of individuals. In a sense, it's like building someone to be truly who they are. Like that's the reason why I really feel like I don't have a lot of fear towards those things because I've experienced a lot of things in life that have shown me a lot of danger and negativity. And it's only strengthened me. And because I know how dark the darkness can be, and I've never been a Satanist or sacrifice people or anything to that effect, but I've seen some pretty dark aspects of the world. And when that's what you know most of your life, and then you start to find something other than, it really makes that light just that much brighter. So it was just when people talk about the light at the end of the tunnel and things like that, it was something that just when I saw it, felt it, and realized that I knew what it was, and it was very sweet, and just I really wanted it more in my life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that because
Yeah.
it's what makes that true humility, right? That I read on you for sure. That you've been in that place. You can't sit in your high horse and say, oh, those terrible people over there that made those choices. Like, no, I've been there and done that. I also went to jail, by the way, and so then it makes you at their level. And I think that's one of the things about God that I know is that the playing field is always level, there's a lie of pride that you could be better than somebody. We're at different places, but it doesn't matter. Like, for example, when you're working in lower energies, your difficulties will be things blowing up in your face and not going your way and having conflict. Excuse me. And then when you're in higher energy, then your obstacles are more hidden away from you. So there's equal difficulty in both situations. And so you have to get in both cases you have to get to that humble place and just go like, yeah, there but for the grace of God go I.
Well said.
Thank you. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm super glad we had a chance to do it. I know I reached out to you thinking like, I wonder if you would come on my podcast, or wouldn't it be nice if kind of thought, and then it took a while to connect, but we did, and I'm super glad.
My schedule's been crazy, and I apologize. It's my
No
schedule, my
apologies.
email. I'm trying to get caught up on everything. It's just been a mess. So, but
Not a problem.
what I've started to realize is that everything, especially like when it comes to wants and needs, like there's been a lot of people who I wanted to interview, and I talked to them. We had everything set up, but not everything happens in the time that I wanted to, and I realized that everything happens the way it's supposed to.
That's beautiful. Exactly. Yeah, time is nothing, but timing is everything.
Like that.
There you go. Kairos versus Chronos. And so there's Chris's website. I'm going to pull it up one more time before we start to close out, just so you know how to get to his good stuff. All roads lead to this kind of, I don't, damn that expression. I can't use it anymore. I often said roads lead to Rome, but that's pretty
Well, it could be
not
like all roads lead back to the light.
exactly. Yeah, something more like that. There's so many expressions I can't use anymore. And you would not believe how many tabs I have open. This is insane. If there
I
was a
appreciate everybody for tuning in and all the really kind words. Joseph, Davin, thank you so much.
Here's your Patreon anyway. While I
Jackie K too. I appreciate. Thank you.
very good.
Let's get the Canadian prices, eh?
The Canadian prices.
Yeah, because the lowest membership level is $5 US,
Oh right,
and
got it.
see it says $7 CA, so that would be CAD,
Ah,
Canadian dollar.
there you go. Yeah.
So it's
So
actually priced out in Canadians, in Connecticut, China money.
exactly. We love your money, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh,
And
I don't know. Nobody should love our money. Our money is destroying the world.
yeah, I know what you mean. Like I don't mean to even give money any love, but for Canadians, that we've always been the little sister to America, in especially financially. So it looks like everything's more expensive. But yeah, that is $5 American. So that's nothing per month to support. I know I support a ton of podcasters out there, and I don't nearly get to any of their content sometimes, never mind all of it. But they're doing the good work. They're spreading the good word, and it feels good to me to get behind, and knowing that there's no corporate sponsorship going to go on here, and they're not going to be bought out and prostitute themselves for something that doesn't actually serve the people. So I am a full on supporter of alternative media such as you do, Chris.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, and so Joseph is asking me to have you on again. We'll definitely do that. And you will be able to see him on the Choose Freedom Law Summit. It will be within the next month because we're doing monthly bonuses, so we'll confirm a date for that. And there are 19 interviews right now for the summit, which are super powerful. We've had great feedback. I'll just full disclosure, I've come out of these 19 interviews knowing less than ever, but having more inner ability to work through and reason through things and actually think and run it through my computer rather than thinking that somebody else's computer is going to be the right one. And what were we in jail for? Well, that might be another story. Maybe I'll tell you that on Wednesday on
Mine
Chris's
was
show.
I had a DUI and I had violated my probation. Which actually that DUI, unless I was to get specific permission, I wouldn't even be allowed in Canada.
Oh, wow. Wow,
They
there you
don't
go.
allow United States citizens that have had a DUI unless they have gone through some sort of process per Canadians.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you everyone in the chat for joining live today. Share this out with friends and family if you found it useful, or if you have any friends or family left or new people in your world. And Chris, I really look forward to hosting you on the Choose Freedom Law Summit one last time. I'm going to just keep posting this link so that
Yeah,
people
and then
know.
next week you're going to be next Wednesday you're going to be coming on. I'm not sure again if we're doing it live or if we're recording it, but it'll be out on my channel by the end of the week. So just stay tuned, and Beth will be on Rice TVX as well.
Okay, fantastic. I'm super thrilled. All right, everyone, have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you, Chris. I look forward to seeing you again twice next week.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
You
Bye
have a
for
great
now.
evening.
Okay. Bye, everyone.